God, you have not taken me through all of this. I know my calling. I, I feel angry at you, God. I feel mad at you. I feel like you've abandoned me. I'm not sure what to do. God, are you going to punish me for all these issues that I've gone through? Is it a lack of faith? What am I supposed to do, God? And I just kept on feeling like God said, I'm not finished with you. I think a lot of people struggle with this idea. Well, if I go do great, does that mean I'm not being humble?
Right.
And so what I tell people is humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking more of others.
Yeah.
You can think how great you are and how wonderful you are up here and still think of people higher than you. That scars without stories fall short of their purpose.
Yep.
And I think that's what you were talking about with him that scars without stories. It has to be a scar. It can't be an open wound, right? But it has to be a scar that tells a story, and then it really has purpose behind it. We're going to dream big. Let's unpack that big dream, that big vision for your life, your leadership, your business, and then let's take the small steps together. That's the whole premise of the book.
And that's the title of the book: Big Dreams,
Absolutely,
Small Steps. Right?
Yeah, and we need to dream bigger. You know, one of the things that I encourage other people is you have to define it.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using New Calm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Nick Edwards, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today. We want to talk about what you're doing in terms of leadership coaching. It's myleadershipcoach.org, right? And then we also want to talk about this new book that you have coming out. It's titled Big Dreams, Small Steps, and it's coming out in January, right?
That's the goal. It should be released by January.
Thanks for being here, bud.
Mike, I really appreciate you. Appreciate what you do. Honored to be a part of this show. You've had some incredible guests on here, and I feel honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're excited about our guests, man. I dig people. I know you can't tell, but I'm really into people, right? I hide it well, right? So
I'm not sure about that.
Appreciate you being here, bud. So where were you born?
So born outside of Dallas in Mesquite, Texas.
Ooh, I used to go to Mesquite.
Dallas. Really?
Yeah.
What did you do in Mesquite?
So when I was a kid, I grew up in Oklahoma. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. When I was a kid, I would come down and my cousins lived in Mesquite and they had a pool in their backyard. And so we would come down and we'd hang out and play in their pool and all that kind of stuff for a week or two, right, during summer. That was so much fun. We had such a great time. And I fell so in love with Dallas, Texas, because I was from a little town in Oklahoma called Ponca City that a lot of people never heard of, right? And we didn't have big malls. We didn't have all that, right? We didn't have the stuff that you have in the big city of Dallas. And so, when growing up, I was like, I gotta go live in Dallas. I'd love to live in Dallas,
Well, if you're from Oklahoma, then anything's better than in Texas. So even just a small visit, that Texas is always better than Oklahoma.
Spoken like a true Texan.
That's right.
So did you grow up in Mesquite?
I did. Grew up in Mesquite, lived there, actually met my wife in Mesquite. She actually went to a different high school. We went off to college, went different directions, came back. And so we really started our life in Mesquite and really have a lot of deep connections and deep roots there still.
So you mentioned it, so I'm going to ask. So she went to a different high school than you went to?
Yes, sir.
So how did you manage to meet her?
Yeah, so we actually, I guess between our sophomore and junior year of high school, the church I was attending, her family moved to that church. Ooh. And we really began a friendship that was 30 years ago.
Wow.
And over 30 years ago. And so just starting a new church together, her family came. And so just created a deep connection.
That's awesome.
Long-term friendship and eventually married.
That's so cool. So growing up in Mesquite, and by the way, one of the most famous rodeos on the planet is in Mesquite, Texas. We went back there, my wife and I, and my cousin actually was the chair of the fundraising committee that ran the thing. And it's a big fundraiser every year. And man, is it a cool thing. We went and just had a blast the whole time we were there. We went to some VIP thing and met a bunch of, I think it was the Fairmont, one of those real fancy hotels, right? The one where you have to drink with your pinky out. And we met, I got to meet Emmitt Smith, who was at the time the starting running back for the Cowboys, and Troy Aikman was there, and all that kind of stuff, right? By the way, Troy Aikman's agent was on the podcast not too long ago. He was our guest on the podcast. Cool. They wrote Jerry Maguire. That's an incredible guest. Yeah, they wrote Jerry Maguire about him. So Cameron Crowe, who wrote Jerry Maguire, followed him around for 2 years. So I get off the topic, right? So growing up in Mesquite, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
I grew up in just a blue collar family, playing Little League football. My dad was my Little League coach, my Little League baseball coach. We had just a small town. It wasn't a small town, but it had a small town feel, knit community that was really connected and really grew up with people that lived 2, 3, 4 blocks around me. Yeah. And we were friends from kindergarten all the way through today. Yeah. And so just having this, what felt like a small, deep knit community that really created some friendships and bonds that really shaped my life.
It was close there. I remember when I was a kid, how close everybody was. And, kids from other houses were coming over. Of course, they had a pool, like I mentioned, right? So the kids would come over, play in the pool, that kind of thing. But that was like the central place in the neighborhood was my cousin's house. It was just wild. So, and it was amazing how sort of connected they were. I mean, it was really cool. Yeah. So growing up in Mesquite, who was the most influential person to you?
Well, absolutely. I have an easy answer for that. That was my dad. Yeah. My dad was my Little League coach. He was my best friend, was the best man at my wedding. Oh, me and my dad,
that's cool.
I've joked that me and my dad have done 1,000,000 miles together, whether it's on hunting trips or fishing trips or business trips, and just really was the man who shaped my life.
Yeah, that's cool. So what did your dad do for a living?
He was a state elevator inspector, and he actually passed away 2 years ago had a heart attack. And so really was the man who shaped me and was still my best friend. We talked every single day. And so coming out of that, I think a lot of men don't understand what it's like to lose your dad until you're there. Yeah. And so once you are in that position, you feel like you're in this weird elite club that no one understands.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine, man. And I'm very, very sorry for your loss.
I appreciate that.
So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
I liked history. I was really good at math. Really didn't know what all that was going to turn into. Yeah. The favorite subject was athletics. I went to North Mesquite High School. We had a lot of guys who played college football. Mm-hmm. My senior year, we were ranked #1 in the state, #1 in the nation. We had reporters on the practice field every day. It was really an incredible experience, and being a part of that team and just the accolades that we have, and really surrounding myself with some great coaches, some great men, and great friends today.
What position did you play in football?
I was a center, offensive line.
So you ran the offense.
Well, I don't know if I ran it, but
you did too. You did too. Yeah, because that quarterback's on his tail end if you're not doing your job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my quarterback, this is a weird joke, okay? So I told my wife after we'd been married for a couple of years, we actually ran into my quarterback, and he was the quarterback from 7th grade all the way through our senior year. And so
that's been rare.
Friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And so after me and my wife had been married a couple of years, we ran into Will. And I said, this is kind of weird. This guy's touched my butt more than you ever will. And she's like, I don't know what that means. Of course, that was 20 plus years ago.
That poor thing. Oh my goodness, man. She's like standing there going, what are you talking about?
What does this even
bus,
mean?
right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny. I love that, man. That's really cool. You got to tell that story more.
Yes.
That's cool.
She doesn't like me telling that story for some reason. She goes, it feels like it needs a lot of context and being able to tell some people some more information before you can just tell that story.
Yeah, well, if you played football, you understand, right?
Yeah.
I just love that. Is so cool. What a great, I love that, man. That's really cool. So in high school, did you have a favorite teacher?
Yeah, it would been my two coaches, Bill Wade and Bill Foster, who even today I still speak to Bill Foster. He's actually a coach in a town close by, and still have connections with him and his family. And he was one of my teachers, but really was my coach as well. And just understanding that influence that it had on my life, that having being surrounded by great men who wanted to help you be great and really wanted to push you to be great, whether it was academically or on the field.
Do you ever get a chance to go volunteer at his high school to help him?
Yeah, I actually got to go to a couple of his games this year and go see him before a game, go see him after the game. So the town that we live in now, he was actually a coach at probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I became a mentor to the football team, spoke to the football team every Friday, and really rekindled that friendship and that relationship after years. And so we've stayed in contact ever since.
Can I ask you a question? I had a chance to speak to, so I've been the announcer, the voice of my kids' high school football team for 13 seasons. And they brought me in to talk to the team. And it just rocked my world. Like, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I got more out of it than they did, I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely.
How does that feel, having played there, having been the center right there on the varsity team, and then come back and have an opportunity to kind of pour into those kids?
Yeah, so I've been the chaplain and speaker of the team for 8 seasons now. It's not the high school I grew up in. It's the town I live in now.
Yeah.
But really being able to invest in this next generation, there's so many bad things that we talk about for Gen Z, and, all the issues that they face, and whether it's addiction to technology or not wanting to work hard. But then you get around these young men and you begin knowing more about their story and where they came from and what's going on in their life, and begin pouring into them. And then I realized, I'm now doing this for me. I'm not even doing this for them anymore. This is such a blessing to me, and I get so much out of it every week.
It's unbelievable, man. I mean, you don't touch the ground for hours after you do that. I mean, it's crazy. Absolutely. So
they want it. They desire it.
Yeah.
And they want people to speak into their life.
I want to get the word out, right? I want people to understand how valuable this is, but I also want them to understand what unbelievable value they get from it. The speaker, the teacher, right? It's such a big deal. And I want people to understand how unbelievably cool it is. You mind if I tell you a real quick story?
Please.
So I'm at church and I'm in the men's room and I'm washing my hands. And I hear, "Hey, aren't you that announcer guy?" Right? I turn around and this giant of a man, is standing there. And I'm like, yeah, right? I'm washing my hands.
Sure.
Right? And he goes, I said, "So Escondido Charter?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." He said, "I've spent the last 4 years playing varsity for Escondido Charter, and you've been calling my games. And you called my best friend, my lifelong best friend, a one-man wrecking crew." Well, his name was Nicholas Patterson, and he was a running back. He was one of those running backs that when he came up, you've seen him before, where when he came up to a defender, he just ran right through him, like didn't go limp, didn't shy away, didn't flop. I mean, ran that guy over like a railroad car, right? And like a locomotive, right? And it was one of those things where I just loved watching this kid play. And I'm talking from the time he was a freshman. Okay. He was just a different level. He just had a different mentality about what he did. And I just love that about, I love that when they, right. And so I nicknamed him the one man wrecking crew. Right. And this kid's like, I've been listening to you for 4 years. Right. It's like, you know what I mean? He goes, you echo in my head. It's like, wow.
You have those unique players that just stand out and you build a connection with, and you go, man, there's something special there. I remember a quote by Bobby Bowden, longtime
Love Bobby Bowden. Love Bobby Bowden. Huge fan.
Great, and just huge wisdom and just how he connected and how he spoke. And they asked him one time, how do you know if that player has that X factor? How do you really know if they're that kind of player? And he goes, I don't know how to tell you what it is, but I know when I see it.
Yeah.
And there's just some players like that you just see that going, man, they have an X factor. If they can just keep their mind straight and keep going in the right direction, they have incredible opportunities ahead of them.
And that's where you come in, right?
Absolutely.
To help them stay straight, help them keep their focus, the whole thing. So in high school, so you played center in high school football and you decide to go to college. Where do you go and why?
Yeah, I had a couple different opportunities. I was not the big guy. I was not getting scholarships offers. I was just a good, solid high school football player. But I actually had a chance to go to Hardin-Simmons out in Abilene and play football there. It was D3 school. I loved it, played for a year, got injured, and realized there's a lot of other time in life other than playing football at that point. And so had an opportunity to play, just didn't last very long.
Yeah. So did you finish there? Did you graduate from there?
Yeah.
What was your major?
Church ministry and psychology.
Oh, cool. I'm glad you took psychology. That's a big part of what you do every day, right? As a chaplain.
Yeah, absolutely. Just understanding how people work, how they think, how they function, how they interact with other people, how we do that within society and different cultures and what that looks like. I still use those things. I didn't even know what I was doing back then and why I was taking these classes.
Right.
But now seeing how those things still play out in everyday relationships.
Yeah. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal because you can literally look and adapt what it is that you're trying to communicate and the way you're communicating to that person. So it's the most effective given their, behavioral traits and that kind of thing. So it's a big deal.
About that. There's 3 parts of every conversation. There's the speaker, the message, and the audience.
Yeah.
And I always ask people, which one's the most important part?
Yeah.
So Mike, which one do you think is the most important part? The speaker, the message, or the audience?
It's the audience.
Absolutely.
It has to be
the audience.
It has to be.
And so whether I'm speaking to a group of executives or female entrepreneurs or high school students, I can have the same person giving the same talk, but I'm going to shape it based upon that audience. And when you know how to speak their language, you begin to connect, and then your ability to influence continues to grow.
Yeah. And it's a big, big deal. It really is.
Yes.
So after college, where do you go? After your bachelor's?
Graduated college, moved back home, and actually went to work at a church that I grew up in. They invited me to come on staff as a growing church. Was growing extremely fast. I came on board as an associate youth pastor. There was already a youth pastor in place, so I was kind of secondary to him. Moved back home, and my wife, who had gone to Texas A&M, she moves back home.
She's an Aggie?
She was an Aggie. I got accepted to Texas. I thought I was going to go to Texas. That was always my dream to go to Texas. Ended up going Hardin-Simmons to play football. Yeah. We moved back, and within 3 or 4 months of graduating college, we started dating. Wow. And it was just, we had been friends for 6-7 years at that point. Yeah. So it became very natural just to take this next step. Wow. And it was absolutely incredible. So went to work at the church I grew up in, was going to seminary, and just life just seemed like this is the kind of the path it's supposed to be on.
Yeah, that is so cool. So how long did you work for that church?
So worked there for just over 3 years. And just over 3 years, felt like God was placing just a different call in my life, and just knew that something different was coming. And so just began praying about that. Me and my wife prayed every day going, God, we know you have something different for us. What's that look like? And after being there, just have over 4 years, had an opportunity to step out on faith and really just believe that God would open up another door. that we would just move to another church. It was going to be easy. Was taking a group of college students on a mission trip to Mexico. And that was about 6 weeks before I had spoken to the pastor and just felt, hey, I want to be able to complete this mission trip. I've invested in these college students, but I feel like God's calling me somewhere else. I don't know where that is, and just want to begin praying and being faithful. He said, don't worry about it. Be on staff through there. We'll pay you for another month after that. And just thought, okay, well, 10 weeks, who can't find a job in 10 weeks? Seems easy enough.
Right.
Married, have a young baby at home. And it just turned into a path that really I never would have expected. I interviewed for churches, everything from Lubbock to Dallas to Waco to Tyler to Austin, all over the state of Texas. I was interviewing these different churches, and multiple times it came down to, hey, you've gone through 2, 3, 4 interviews. It's between you and one other person. We want to bring you in for one more interview. And they decided to go the other way. And after taking this biggest step of faith and believing that God had something different, now I felt like God had abandoned me. And I wasn't sure, what am I supposed to do now? I'm married. I have a baby at home and I can't find a job. And just interviewing for these different places and just over and over going, hey, we've decided to go with another direction. Felt like God abandoned me and just sold me out, and really struggled with my faith, struggled to what I believe about God, what I want from God, and what does my future look like.
So what ends up happening?
So my father-in-law, who is a great, wise, godly man, I could not have ever imagined having a better father-in-law. He is just an incredible man, been a huge blessing to me personally. He's a Dallas police officer. And he says, hey, you need a job and they're hiring. Sounds like a good match. And so I end up becoming a Dallas police officer, and was a Dallas police officer for 7 years.
That is not what I expected to hear.
No, that was a left turn. It was about a year and a half process. And really, I'd gone through some depression, really a dark season of life. Just feeling like God abandoned me. I turned inward, had some addiction issues, was going through some struggles, was really a pretty sucky husband and dad at that time, because I just didn't know what my purpose was. Who am I? What am I doing? Everything that I had been working towards was no longer happening. And I wasn't sure how to get it back or what that looked like, but I knew I had to provide for my family. So I'd work part-time job to part-time job during this time before starting at Dallas Police Department.
Wow. So you go to work at Dallas. How long are you there?
7 years.
Wow.
So worked there 7 years. Go ahead.
What was your favorite thing about working there?
You know, if you look at the city of Dallas has a lot of issues, not like externally, but really internally, politically, just some of the issues that are going on. I love the guys that I work with. I had the incredible opportunity to be a part of different warrant teams and different units. It was a lot of fun. Got to learn a lot through that process. Got to connect with a lot of different guys and learn from a lot of different men who had different experiences from me. During that time, the guy that sat on my left side in the academy and the guy that sat on my right side were both Marines. And I started there in 2006. So those guys had been Marines from 2000 through 2006. So 9/11/01. They saw a lot of combat, saw some of the worst of the worst in the world during that time, and really developed a friendship for these two men. Really just developed a close bond. One of them eventually became my partner, and we rode together every day for 6 years. And even still talk today, have a friendship that we can go months without talking and then just pick it up right where we left off.
That's cool, man. That's one of those friendships that's a life thing, right? It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Those are the guys that can call you at 2:00 in the morning and you answer the phone and go, what do you need?
Yeah, exactly. And you're there, right?
Absolutely.
So you're there for 7 years. What makes you make a change?
So during that time, I just kept on going, God, you have not taken me through all of this. I know my calling. I feel angry at you, God. I feel mad at you. I feel like you've abandoned me. I'm not sure what to do. God, are you going to punish me for all these issues that I've gone through? Is it a lack of faith. What am I supposed to do, God? And I just kept on feeling like God said, I'm not finished with you. I have a purpose for you. I have a story for you. I'm going, but God, it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm sitting in South Dallas. What in the world am I doing here?
Yeah.
And God just kept on telling me, I'm not finished with you. I have more for you. I have a story for you. And so my partner and the other Marine, because of their time and other military guys that were on the police department, started learning a lot about PTSD and what was going on in their life, the trauma they went through, the things they experienced, understanding how our brains work, and really kind of started nerding out on neuroplasticity and understanding how our brains rewire themselves.
Yeah.
And at the same time, trying to help them realizing there's things that I need to be doing to help myself and to grow myself. Through that process, just knowing God had something else for me, I went through about a 2-year process that I wasn't involved in any church, wasn't involved with anything, and didn't want to be, and was just really struggling. But it led me back to understanding God's grace, God's forgiveness, God's healing and redemption plan through it all. And after being there for 7 years, the church I was attending asked me if I would come back on staff or come on staff with them and oversee one of the campuses and oversee our men's ministry and our whole groups, small groups process.
Yeah. So that was an opportunity that you wanted to jump at.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a door that I didn't know what it was ever going to look like, but it was during that 7 years of wondering, of confusion, of going, God, what's my purpose? What's my calling? What am I doing? What's my passion? What am I excited about? That God was actually developing something within me. When I moved and was able to work at the church, started working with men, and now I had a different perspective from going from a kid who grew up in church and just had really a pretty easy life, going to seminary, working at a church. Now I had a different experience for the reality of what men go through, of business life, of understanding different relationships in the real world, not just in a church bubble. So I was able to begin investing in the lives of men who were going through PTSD, men who were coming back from the military, and really God used that time to shape my heart to go, men matter. And how we invest in men matter. And if you can impact the man, you impact his family, and you impact generations.
Yeah. It's a ripple effect for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So you go to work for the church and you're running one of the campuses. How long are you there?
9 years.
Wow.
So 9 years later, we've gone from 2 campuses to 5 campuses to plus online. Church continues to grow. My role, my influence continues to grow in the entire organization. But my passion was always, how do you help leaders be better? How do you help men lead their family better? How do you invest in the people that when you invest in them, it has a domino effect that they are people who influence other people. So how do you lead and impact leaders who lead other people?
Yeah.
And so after about 8 years, I began just going, now I'm at another level that I have to develop myself. I have to invest in myself, and I have to begin going, what do I need to refine and understand about myself? How do I know myself more and begin to invest in myself? And what I realized is there's no greater investment than you can make than growing yourself.
Absolutely true.
And so at that point, I started just researching, going, how can I invest in myself? Who can I go find to help in that process? Found a life coach and met with him for 6 months, every week for 6 months. And it was life-changing. Golly, man, wise man, extremely successful in business, was making more money than I'd ever heard of anybody making. And it just opened my eyes going, I have to be able to invest in myself. And when I'm able to do that, then I can begin investing in others at a whole different level. And through that process, I go, okay, what's next? What does that look like next? And went through the process to become a certified coach, speaker, and trainer for the John Maxwell Company, John Maxwell Leadership Team. I didn't even know why I was doing it, other than really just to invest in myself. And that period just began to open up some new doors of, when you invest in yourself, everything begins to change. When you invest in others, you have this ripple effect that is so much bigger than what you could ever imagine.
That's absolutely awesome. And of course, you know John Maxwell's story.
Yes. Yeah,
So he
absolutely.
built Skyline Church out here in Rancho
Yep.
San Diego. And it was when he started looking at Skyline Church in sort of a business type philosophy, like business type approach, that it took off and just multiplied, right? It was really, really cool. So yeah, I'm a huge John Maxwell fan. So yeah, so this is really cool. So you go and so can I back up for just a second? So
Yeah, absolutely.
so you had this life coach that you had for 6 months. Where did you find him? And what was your favorite thing about him and the coaching?
So crazy thing is, one of my other mentors, right before I started working with this guy, I didn't even know what a life coach was. I didn't know
A
that
lot of people
term.
don't.
Yeah. And one of my mentors comes up to me and said, I see what you do with men. I see what you do with marriages. I see the investment that you make in people. Have you ever thought about being a life coach? And I was going, I don't know what that means. Why would you ask me that?
Right.
And he said, I just want you to think about it, pray about it. What does it mean for you to invest in other people? And I'm going, I think that's what I'm doing. And in that process, opened up this idea. So I started looking into it more. And what does it mean to be a life coach or a leadership coach? And in that process, had another mentor say, hey, I've got a buddy who does life coaching. Is that something you'd be interested in? Not connected, didn't know the conversations were even happening. So made this connection. Really, God orchestrated through that process that I didn't know what God was doing, but he was orchestrating so much bigger, something so much bigger than what I could see.
So why was the life coach a life coach? Did you find that out?
No, he picks a couple men every year and just invests in them. He has a business that continues to grow. He consults with energy and oil companies, and he's a high level leader, and understands systems, understands process, but understand nothing gets done without people.
Yeah.
And so he just picks a couple people every year to invest in, and I got to be one of those.
Wow. How how blessed are you?
Oh, looking back, I couldn't have afforded it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have paid for it. And it was more valuable than I ever would have understood.
Yeah. So why was he a life coach? Did he ever share that with you?
No, just because he loves investing in people.
So what was your favorite thing about the life coaching that you did for 6 months?
I think it was him asking hard questions.
Yeah.
So often we get in life and we don't, whether it's a boss, but they're doing an evaluation on you, right? You have some friends and maybe they, razz each other a little bit, but you ask each other some hard questions about life and your family and how are you leading your family and these kind of things. But he asked me questions that I had never really processed before about what are your desires? What do you want to see as your impact? Do you understand some of your blind spots? Do you understand how other people perceive you versus how you perceive yourself?
Right.
And it just opened up this, well, wait, not everybody thinks like me? I thought everybody thought like me. Why doesn't everybody think like me? Why doesn't everybody see the world the same way I do? And he began asking tougher and tougher questions about myself. I don't know if Cliff ever gave me advice. He just asked questions to help me to understand and discover what I really wanted.
Yeah. It's why I'm writing a book on the power of questions.
Absolutely.
Because I do it every day, right?
Yeah. And that's what really I do today is with business owners, with trying to do some more church consulting and working with churches. It's asking more questions. And whether I'm sitting down with a CEO of $100 million company or a new entrepreneur, asking more questions. And if you ask better questions, you get better answers.
Absolutely. 1000%. I totally agree with that. And I love the fact that he never said anything. Like he never told you anything. He just asked you.
Honestly, it kind of pissed me off. Like, Cliff, just tell me the answer.
Just give me the answer. Right?
Yeah, come on, man. And he goes, hey, that's a good question. Let's talk about that some more. And he wouldn't talk about it. He would just ask me more questions. And then I would get done and I would leave and I'm going, what just happened? How did this just happen? He didn't tell me anything, but now I feel like I have an answer.
Yeah.
And he approved of the answer, and he was a guide.
Yeah.
He was a guide, not an advisor.
And he was
I think
planting
that's
seeds.
Absolutely.
You know,
He was teaching me how to think. He was teaching me how to ask better questions. He wanted me to read some books that were very different than anything I'd read before, but it was all about how you see the world differently, how you see people differently, how you have a desire to serve them rather than be served by them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a big, big deal. You got to get out of your comfort zone, because we call it confirmation bias, right? We do this as people.
Absolutely.
And we do it out of almost a defense mechanism, but we also get to a place to where we kind of own it. And all of a sudden, everybody needs to look, act, and sound exactly like we are, and they don't, right? And they don't absorb things the way we do. They don't learn the way we do. They don't talk as fast as we do, that type of thing. And it's absolutely fascinating to me when somebody comes along and says, hey, let me, because I had people in my life that have done that. And they come along and they just kind of say, hey, let me kind of help you along this, right? So a pastor of mine and his wife came to me and asked me if I would be their success coach. And I'm like, yeah, hello, yes, right? And they've now written over 40 books on marriage and family.
Wow.
Wild, absolutely wild. So yeah, they've done really well.
But you give them permission and you give them some guidelines. And I think a lot of people need someone else to say, it's okay for you to go be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we live in this world that everybody it's just how do we make everybody average?
Yeah.
And when you step out of being average and you want to go do great things and you want to go do big things, there's always this resistance, right?
There's a guilt.
And there's what?
There's a guilt.
Absolutely.
And it holds a lot of people back.
They just need permission from you or someone to say, it's okay to go be great.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately the best thing is if they give themselves permission.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And that's where the asking questions and probing and right, digging and that kind of thing, that's where that comes from, is you get to a place to where you get them to say to you, if you're their coach, you get them to say to you, I can go do this. It's okay for me to be great. Right.
Yeah. And it's pulling that out of them and pulling that greatness out of them, pulling out that desire to go be great and understanding. I think a lot of people struggle with this idea. Well, if I go do great, does that mean I'm not being humble?
Right.
And so what I tell people is humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking more of others.
Yeah.
You can think how great you are and how wonderful you are up here and still think of people higher than you.
Yeah.
It's not thinking less of yourself and devaluing yourself.
Yeah. And you can still admire people, even if you're immensely successful, you can still admire people that are not as successful as you, but you admire how they live. You admire the relationships they have. You admire how much they give back at church. You admire how important they are to the community, that type of thing. You with me? Absolutely. It's not all about what they're earning. It's about what they're accomplishing. And what they're accomplishing oftentimes doesn't have a dollar sign attached to it.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's a distinction people need to get to,
Yes. And understanding you need people who are great at different areas of life that you can lean in on.
Yeah.
Because no one's great in everything. So who's great at finances that you can learn from? Who's great at marketing that you can learn from? Who's
coaching,
great at
the whole
leading
thing.
a podcast?
Yeah. Right.
And you have different influences and different mentors and people who are able to speak into your life.
Yeah. One of the very first things I did when I was starting this podcast is I hired a coach. Hired a coach that had been podcasting for 20 plus years. Best thing I ever did. Best thing I ever did. It literally launched me. Now I had my own idea in terms of what I was doing and what my theme was and what our mission was and all that kind of thing. But he helped to get me to where I was going. Right. And he literally shared with me that 98% of podcasts don't make it past the second episode.
Yeah. So me and a friend started a podcast earlier this year. We did 11 episodes. At the 10th episode, I got an email from Spotify and said, do you realize you're part of 2% of people who start podcasts?
Yeah.
Because no one makes to 10 episodes.
Yeah. It's rarefied air, man. It really is.
It is.
And you're episode 381 for us.
381. Wow. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of work.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of behind the scenes and scheduling and all these different things. But is the work worth where you're going?
Yeah. 1000% it is. And it's fun. You know, it's hard to quantify for people how much fun it is doing what we do. And the people that I've had the opportunity to meet, absolutely it completely blows my mind. Completely blows my mind. I had a thing happen a couple of months ago where I was told that I could die. And I went to the emergency room. I was out of breath. I was short of breath. I couldn't walk 5 steps without being out of breath.
Wow.
I thought I had COVID. So I went to the local urgent care here by my house, and they said, we need to call an ambulance and take you to the emergency room right now. So you go to the emergency room, and they start doing all these tests, and they're trying to figure this out. They did a CT scan with contrast, and they found the single largest pulmonary embolism they've ever seen in a human being in the history of the hospital. And the hospital's been around more than 100 years. So they came into the room and they said, we found it. It's massive. And we're going to do everything we can to save your life tonight. It's not every day that somebody says that to you.
Yeah.
So they took I have a photo. They took this, they went up through a vein in my hip, and they went into my arteries, and they pulled all of the clot. It was a saddle clot that went like this and down, like an upside down U, kind of like this, right? Right. And in 2 hours and 40 minutes, they removed all of this clot. The next morning, they take me to the ICU. The next morning, the ICU doctor comes in, and he says, we set a record last night. A record? He said, yeah, we pulled more clot out of you than we have any other human being in the history of the hospital. Wow. And he said, and let me tell you what the silver lining is. The silver lining is your heart is incredibly strong. So what they did was they took that clot out and they replaced it on a piece of paper for medical records. Well, we happen to get a photo of it. I've shown that photo to a number of people that have medical background, and they've told me that I'm not here without God making that happen. And if you saw the photo, you'd understand, because it's like, how in the world, with all that clot in my chest, right above my heart, how in the world was there blood pumping through those veins or through those arteries, with all that in there? So I know for a fact that God saved me that night. And so I asked my daughter, I said, so why do you think he saved me? And she said, so you'll wake up. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. He's not done with you, right?
That's right.
And I truly believe, with every fiber of my being, I truly believe that what you and I are doing right now is part of why he kept me here.
Yeah.
That I'm literally doing what he made me to do. You know what I mean? I also start, by the way, teaching real estate at a local college in April of next year. I'm actually in school at the University of Oklahoma finishing my bachelor's degree. I finish in May. And after that, I start my master's program in July. That following May of 27, I start a full-time position at Southwestern College. Yeah.
Wow.
An absolute lifelong dream come true.
That's
Crazy.
incredible.
Crazy, right?
And it's that scary moment,
Mm-hmm.
that unknown moment, that, oh no, why is this happening to me? When we go, okay, what is God trying to accomplish through this? He's not finished with me. There's more to the story. This becomes part of the story, begins changing your mindset.
Yeah.
That I don't just go through the hard times of life. I don't just go through the suck of life for no purpose, but it's in order that I'm stronger, I'm wiser, I'm better in order to invest back in others.
You know what's interesting? We picked up a bunch of podcast fans while I was in the hospital because they all found out I had a podcast. And the way I know that is they would come in and they would tell me their story, just like you and I are talking. I'm not joking. The staff, the nurses, right? They'd all come in and they'd tell me their story. Right. So one of them in particular that I'll never forget owned a painting contractor, painting company. He was a painting contractor. And he and his wife had a baby 19 years ago at that hospital where I was in the ICU. And his wife developed a hemorrhage that's fairly common for women. They have these hemorrhages and they, unfortunately, a while ago used to bleed to death. Well, when this happens, all kinds of things take place around them, right? And so he ended up, they saved her life at that hospital. They have a beautiful 19-year-old baby, year-old baby, right? And he sold his painting company, went back to school, obtained his nursing degree, and went to work at that hospital.
Wow, incredible.
He and his wife run a nonprofit that literally helps women who have this hemorrhage. And that morning that he was taking care of me, he was telling me that his wife that morning had received a phone call from a lady in Maryland who had that hemorrhage, and she was rallying around her and helping her get all the resources she needed and everything that, you know what I mean? It's like, it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. Absolutely incredible experience. I go into so they come in and the doctor comes in and he goes, look, we found it. It's massive and we're going to do everything we can to save your life. And I said, Doc, I can't die tonight. I have too much to do. I can't die tonight. Right. I actually used a word that you're not supposed to use. Right. I have too much blank to do. Right.
Yeah.
And so I go into the cath lab, and this cardiology team was brought in on their day off on an emergency thing to save my life.
Wow.
I was in there in a minute and a half. I'm not joking. Maybe a minute and a half. And this guy comes over and he goes, Mike, my name's Alan. I'm your anesthesiologist. I said, hey, Alan, nice to meet you. He goes, I need you to shut up. And I'm like, okay, right? And he goes, you love people and you like to talk. And he said, I'm not knocking you out tonight. He said, I need you to just listen to everything. Right? He said, I can't have you talking to this team. They're going to be in your arteries tonight. Okay. He goes, the only thing I want to hear from you is, Alan, I'm in pain, and I'll dial up the anesthesia. Now, I was never in pain, but I'm telling you, Nick, I felt them pull the clot out. I felt the pulling sensation, not pain, just a pulling sensation, right? And it was like, and then they laid it out on a piece of paper. It's massive, like absolutely massive. And like I said, it's set a record. It's the single largest one they've ever done. And
so you're a record holder.
Yeah, a record holder, right? Not a record I was looking to hold,
that you
right?
want to hold, yeah.
But I'm a record holder now, right? Yeah. So, but it was one of those things where, like, the cardiologist came in the next morning and he said, I never know why some people live and some people die. But he said, I'm glad you lived because you're one of the good ones. I'll never forget that.
That's cool.
I'll never forget him.
It's humbling.
I'll never forget that team, that rallied around me and took care of me. And you know what I mean? Like, that was a big deal. And
Sure.
And it really was divine intervention, 1000%. So anyway, so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that I survived so we could have this chat, So
It's out
you
of
end
that
up,
pain that comes your passion and your purpose.
yeah,
That you, if you never experience pain, it's hard to be passionate and understand purpose.
yeah. And you gotta pay your dues, right? Because if it was easy,
Absolutely.
everybody'd do it, right?
Yeah,
You'd be one of those 98%, right?
sure.
So at some point you decide to start, so you go to John Maxwell, you get certified, but you decide to start being a leadership coach. And your website is myleadershipcoach.org, which by the way is amazing. I spent a ton of time on it, and I
Thank you.
love it.
Appreciate that.
So you decide to get into leadership coaching. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing. Part of what I've been a student of leadership for years and years, and I'd read Maxwell's books, and I'd read Patrick Lencioni, and I'd read all these guys, and all about leadership and culture and creating these things. And when I went to Maxwell's conference after going through, felt like going back to college and taking classes again,
Yeah.
going through this whole process. Then you go to this conference, and one of the things they encourage you is to go start a mastermind. Whether you do it for free, you do it paid, invite a few people and take them through 4, 6, 8 weeks of leadership development and just see where it goes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I did. I said, okay, I'm setting a date. This is the time I'm going to do it. Talked to a friend who owned a restaurant, that barbecue place. They're only open for lunch and dinner. I said, hey, is there any way we could do like a breakfast thing at your business with some leaders? He goes, sure, can I be a part of it? I said, absolutely. Had 10 people that I invited to it. They said, are you going to do this again? And I said, sure, I'll do this again. And so they said, well, we have some people that we would like to recommend. So I did 3 of them that were free. And out of that process, I had people going, will you come do this for my company? Will you come do this for my team? Will you come do this for this department that I lead? And what I realize is when you add value to people, they see the value of it.
Oh yeah.
And when you invest in people, they go, give me more of that. And understanding that leadership and leadership development, when you invest in leaders, it changes the entire organization.
Yeah.
And then it gets to this point going, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's your dreams? What's your goals for your company or your division or your own personal leadership? And helping them unpack those things, going from not just a speaker or a trainer, but also this coach of pulling out, what do you want? Where do you want to go? And how can we help you get there?
Yeah, that's awesome. So myleadershipcoach.org. And then you have 2 other companies that I saw. One was 410 Studios.
So I have 410 Studios, which is a podcast studio that I have that allows people to rent out the studio and be able to expand their voice. And the whole idea of it is because of my faith, everything has a scripture wrapped around it. And so it's the prayer of Jabez. And he says, will you expand my territory? Will your hand of blessing be upon me? Well, what greater way to expand your territory than to expand your voice? That's exactly what you've done.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And so you expand your influence. And so that was the idea of the studio. We had already started 410 Consulting Group, which is a business that me and my wife had to get together. And as I'm working with smaller businesses, sometimes they're great at trade, they're great at marketing, they're great at sales, maybe they're even great at vision, or they're great at their finances. But they're usually not great at all those things.
Right. There's usually something in there that you can help with. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's one part of it, whether it's your vision, your sales, your culture, your finances, that you're going, I don't do that part. And I don't understand that part. Well, what we realize is a big part of that's finances for small business owners.
Yeah.
So we just started another business. She does some consulting with their finances and helps them do their books. And then usually a lot of those come from me coaching them.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then you have a third company.
So we have a nonprofit that is Impact 320. Impact means to come into forcible contact with, meaning that we can't play games. We can't play patty cake. We can't just be soft about everything. We got to come into contact with people, forcible contact. And then 320 is Ephesians 3:20. I can do far more abundantly than all you can ask or think. So do you believe God can do abundantly more? And that's what we want to believe. And so the vision of it is, how do we empower men, um, empower men, impact families, and shape generations?
Yeah,
And
that's really
by
cool.
impacting men, how does that play out for the family, for generations to come?
Yeah, that is really cool. So at some point, you made a decision, which is it's not an easy decision to make. Let's be honest. You
No.
made a decision to write a book. Now, I don't know if I shared this with you, but we're in 76 countries worldwide.
Wow.
We just picked up Burkina Faso the other day, which
Okay.
is a country in Africa, right? In the
Yeah, I've been to Ghana
Western,
and right on
yeah,
the
right?
the
Western
the
Sudan, yeah,
border.
right? Um, and we picked up Mongolia, we picked up Bahrain, we picked up Lebanon, and all of them like in one night. We picked up 6 countries in like one night. It was crazy.
That's
So
expanding your territory right there.
yeah, right. I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, we're in China, we're in
Mm.
Kyrgyzstan, we're in Kazakhstan, we're in right. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's still hard for me. I mean, even when I verbalize it, it's hard for me to even, you know what I mean? But it's cool. So one of the things that I know is there are people that are listening to this that are thinking about writing a book, and you make the decision, which is it's not a minor decision, right? You make a
No, it's not.
decision to write a book. Can you talk about that mindset? Like what drove you to do that?
Yeah, it was this whole process that I'd written and things that I was teaching and things
Yeah,
that uh, people would say, "Man, that's valuable. Is there a resource for that?" And I
yeah,
went, "Well, yeah, it's just all up here, and that's the resource." And
yeah,
then going, "Okay, how do I begin to communicate those things, and how do I begin to
yeah.
write?" And I write a lot, but usually it's just for me and my journal and
Mhm.
keeping notes of all these different things. And so one of my mentors goes, "Hey, when are you going to write this? When are you?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Write what?" He goes, "When are you writing your book?"
Yeah,
And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "What's it going to be called?" And I immediately knew the title of the book was going to be Big Dreams, Small Steps.
right.
And the whole premise of it is we need to dream bigger.
Yeah,
We settle for way too little. We
yeah,
need to dream big and go after big things and believe, and at the same time, take the small steps to get there.
yeah.
So one of the things I talk about in the book is the law of time,
Mhm.
that 24 minutes a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year. So take off your weekends, take off your 2 weeks of vacation a year is 100 hours a year.
Yeah.
Well, if I said, "Hey, you want to do something for 100 hours in 2026, you go, "Man, that feels like a big commitment."
Mhm.
But I can take small steps. I can do 24 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I can do 12 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon. And what I realized is I had to start doing that with my book. I
Mhm.
had to take the small steps, write a little bit, write a little bit, write a little bit more. And then as it continued to develop, just going, okay, this is my story. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want people to be able to understand and to do and to take action out of. So it's a little bit of a book, but it's a little bit of a workbook as well.
So let me ask you this. So I know, and you've been so unbelievably upfront and wonderful and transparent about this. And by the way, I think that's incredibly important. Every single interview you do, every time you get a chance to talk, you need to talk about how you felt abandoned. You need to
Mm,
talk about, because you're not the only
I
person that's
appreciate that.
gone through this. Okay. And there's a thing called the generosity of scars. And it's not my term. It's a term that's been coined
Love
by
that.
Scott Mann. Okay. Scott Mann's been on our podcast. Do you know who he is?
I do not.
So he's been on our podcast 4 times. He's coming
Okay.
on another time. Okay. I guarantee it. He's going to be on a regular, right? Scott and I completely hit it off. We were together 2 hours the first time
Mm,
we interviewed him. Of course, we were talking about 2 different books that he wrote, right? He's an Afghanistan war veteran, and he was in special forces. He was a Green Beret. He retired as a lieutenant colonel, and
mm,
the pullout in 2021 happened in Afghanistan, and you remember what a disaster
yeah.
that was. Well, one of the things that happened was there were a number of Afghan citizens who had helped us in the war. There's some
Mm,
30,000 of them. Okay. And the administration at the time basically was not interested in bringing those people that had helped us in the war out of Afghanistan, even though we promised them during that 20-year war that if they helped us, we would take them with us. Right? So we were violating a promise. And so one of the men that worked side by side, hand in glove, elbow to elbow, the whole thing with Scott, he called Scott and said, "Hey, we're not being allowed to be on the planes that are leaving here. The government's not doing right." And all of a sudden he went to work because it's what they do. They're operators. They just get it done. So he went to work, started working the back channels. So wrote a book called Operation Pineapple Express. And one of the things that Green Berets do is they drop them behind enemy territory, behind enemy lines. So they drop them into enemy territory. And what they do is they connect with the indigenous people in whatever country it is. In this case, it was Afghanistan, but he had done it in Latin America, all that kind of stuff. And they go in and they bond and they add value to the indigenous people. So one of the things he did was he parachuted in with his team, and they immediately went to work on their well, on their water well, and got it cleaned up and got them quality water, helped them with their agriculture, helped them with, like one of the things they found was that the farmers, the average age of a farmer out there was 20 years old because the elders had all been killed off in the previous wars. Right. Wow. And so the average age was 20 years old. Well, the 20-year-olds didn't know that earthworms were good for the soil. So they were going through their crops and pulling the earthworms out of the soil, thinking they were going to eat their crops. Okay. They actually add nitrogen, which helps, right? You with me? And so one of the things that he talks about is so he wrote a book called Operation Pineapple Express, and he wrote another book called Nobody's Coming to Save You, a Green Beret's Guide to Getting Big, what done, right? And we interviewed him about both of those books. And so it took a couple hours, right? But we had a great time, and it started a friendship. And I follow him a lot and I listen to him a lot. And one of the things that he talks about is your generosity of scars. Your struggle, what you went through, is something you need to communicate. And the reason for it is people will connect with you because of it. Okay. They will connect with you because there are times in their lives when they felt abandoned by God. You with me? Yep. So please, from me to you, please, always talk about this. So one of the things that I find fascinating in your story is you felt abandoned by God, and now you're glorifying him, and you're doing it through your work, right?
Absolutely.
And through your book. Here's a question that I have for you. And this is for anybody that's thinking about writing a book, anybody that's ever been through the process, right? So you started writing 12 minutes a day, 2 hours a day, whatever it was. You started writing. Did you experience what I'm about to ask you? I know this is a long preface, right? But this is the question. When you were writing, when you were in the throes of it and you were writing every day and did you ever have a situation where you woke up in the middle of the night and thought of something, or were driving and you thought, oh, that'd be awesome, I need to make sure I include that?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I have a note section on my phone, whether it's at the middle of the night, I can make a note there, or driving down the road and talking to Siri.
So that's your subconscious.
Yep.
And that's what I want people to understand. Okay. I want people to understand, if you command your self-conscious, your subconscious, if you command your subconscious to answer a question, and it could be, how do I write this book? What in the world do I put in it? It will answer that for you. And you'll get it when you least expect it, right? It'll just pop up. It's one of the best things God ever created.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that you got to have some white space for, where you turn your brain off and then things pop up.
Absolutely. Because as soon as you stop trying to think of the name of that family friend that you went to high school with all those decades ago, if you're my age, it's a lot of decades ago, right? And you can't think of it, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Or you're driving down the street and you're not thinking about that, it pops in your head.
Sure.
I just want people to understand it's a very important tool.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And then having a process for when that comes up, you have a way to document it and remember it.
Absolutely.
Because then it's gone.
Yeah.
So whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you wake up and you go, okay, I got to write that down real quick so I don't forget in the morning, or talking to Siri, going down the road, going, okay, make sure this is part of my notes.
And that's why journaling is so important, because you're literally writing this out. You're thinking it through. You're putting it into action, right? You're putting it into actual sentences you can form and that kind of thing, communication. And you're literally communicating with your subconscious. You're literally doing it.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I've found is that I struggle with, does anybody actually want to hear this?
Yeah.
Does anybody want to hear? And I've just had some people encourage me going, you know, your story and the thing that you're challenging people with is valuable. Mm-hmm. And so everybody needs to be able to tell their story. And I think that's what you do so great on your podcast about helping people tell their story. And you don't know who it's going to connect to. You don't know where it's going to add value to. You don't know that even me talking about my scars and feeling abandoned and feeling like, oh no, what am I going to do next? Is exactly where someone is today to hear it's not over.
Yeah.
There's more to come.
Yeah. And there's a reason why on October 11th, I was in the emergency room. You with me? Because the doctor that walked into the emergency room, the first thing I said was, I know you. You helped my dad 4 years ago at Scripps La Jolla. And this is Scripps Encinitas. Okay. And he stopped for a second and he goes, well, I worked at La Jolla 4 years ago. He said, I don't remember you or your dad. Right. But he goes, you got a good memory.
Yeah.
And it was the same time that I had that massive clot in my chest. Right. But I recognized him. And it was, you know what I'm saying? There was a reason. There was a reason. You look back on it, there was a reason. Okay. There's a reason why you wrote this book. There's a reason why you're on this podcast. There's a reason why people are listening to you. I promise you, they want to know this. And the reason why we do the life story is because people connect with you. Nick, we are more connected. We are more connected technologically than we've ever been. Where are you? You're in Texas, right?
Outside of Dallas.
Okay. So you're outside Dallas and I'm in Oceanside, California, and we're talking to each other like we're in the same room.
Sure.
Okay. Technologically, we're more connected than we've ever been. I could talk to you on my phone by video, right? I mean, it's incredible, but people feel more disconnected than they ever have. That's 100%. Why what you're doing is so important. And that's why I'm trying to encourage you regarding your generosity of scars, because it'll pull people in. You know this because you've experienced it. And you even talked about it earlier in this episode where you talked about how we sort of layer ourselves with these walls to protect ourselves against, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we won't allow people in. That's one of the biggest things that leaders deal with is the fact that the people that they have working for them, they're fine all the time. They're fine all the time. Yeah. No, seriously, they're fine all the time. You can look at them and know they're not fine. You can look at them and know they feel terrible or they're going through something or whatever, but they'll tell you they're fine. Why? Because that's the socially acceptable, politically correct answer. Okay? What we have to do as leaders is
saying fine is the same as saying the F word.
Yeah.
Fine is an F word in our house. Fine means you're not fine.
Yeah. Well, but you have to be able to find that, right? You have to be able to get past all that stuff. Okay. I wanted to use a different word, but we're going to use the clean word, right? You have to get past all those layers.
Sure.
And the only way you can do that is by connecting. And the way you connect is you tell stories, but you ask and you ask and you ask and you ask. That's why your coach, your life coach that you had for 6 months, that's why he fascinates me so much, because all he did was ask.
Sure.
You with me? And we're not good at that. I spoke at Stanford in June as a guest.
Yeah.
And it was a public speaking class. And I got there and I said, so, okay, teach. What am I teaching? He goes, you're not teaching, you're giving a toast. And you have 2 minutes. I'm like, hey, Bruce, it takes me 30 minutes to introduce myself. Right?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you only have 2 minutes and you can't go over. It's a mortal sin here if you go over. Great. So I get up and I told him, I said, I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 items of value. The first thing I told him was, if they ever have stage fright, just love the audience more than you love yourself, the stage fright will go away. Because if you're more, remember you asked me the question, is it the speaker, the message, or the audience? What was my answer?
It's always audience.
Right. So here's the thing. If you care more about that audience having value, receiving value from you, you won't care about how you look doing it. That's what stage fright is. Stage fright is, I'm afraid I'm going to stammer or stutter, or I'm going to whatever, right? That's what stage fright is. So I told him, I said, just do that and it'll go away. The second thing I told him was, I said, I'm going to suggest that you do what I suggested my own kids do. My kids are 25 and 27 now. And I told him, I said, take out a blank word processor program, a blank document, and at the top, type in stay in curiosity. At the bottom, type in stay out of judgment. Print it up and put it up in front of where you work. Because every day you need to see this so that it reminds you to be curious about the people that are around you. Okay? Leaders are not curious enough, man. They're not engaged enough. They're not connected enough. And the way you connect with these people, the way you connect with the people that are around you, is you sit with them and you ask them.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to ask them a few different questions to get to where you want to get to, so that you can find out what's really going on with them, so you can reach them.
And it's asking better questions and learning how to ask better questions that get you where you're able to pull it out a little bit more and a little bit more. And then you ask it a different angle and they go, oh, that's what you mean. And then they just throw up all of it to you. Yeah. And then you're going, okay, good. Let's go more there.
Yep. I got through the dam. Here comes the water, right?
And we get so task driven. I do DISC personality assessments for companies all the time. I love DISC. I think of all of them, it's the easiest to teach. It's the easiest to grasp and the easiest to begin to implement.
Yeah.
And so you can become so task oriented that we're about projects. We're about moving forward. We're about selling this widget or building this widget or whatever it is, but nothing gets done without people.
Yeah. 1000%.
Until you understand the value of people, you will always fall short. So take your task and go, how do we invest in people to get that task done?
Yeah. And the best thing you can do as a leader is go sit with them and say, hey, we're trying to get here. We're here. We're trying to get here. We know you're going to be a big part of this. Can you share with us what your part of this can be? You know what happens? They tell you, and then who owns it?
They own it.
That's what you want.
They buy in, they believe, they go, yeah, I want to go there.
It was their idea.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that this over here, how do we get here is for me asking leaders, business owners, CEOs, what is here? Where do you want to get to? What does that look like? And what I tell them is that my definition of success, everybody has to come up with, their own definition. For me, maybe I'm not very smart, so I had to simplify it. And I said, success is arrival at the desired destination.
Right.
So success is getting there. The question is, where is there and where do you want to get?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the how. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But where do you want to be? What is success for your life? What is success for your business? What is success for your legacy and your family and all these? So if you can define what that destination is, then we can get on a path to get there. The problem is we just go out and we get on a highway and we're going east or west and you're going, why'd you go that direction? I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And so we pick the road based upon the destination.
Yeah. And that's the clarity. That's the clarity, right?
Absolutely.
And when you're sitting with them as a leadership coach, you're having a or life coach, you're having a conversation with them about what would that mean? How would that affect your family? What would your future look like? What does it look like when you arrive there, right? You with me? And,
absolutely.
And how does that change what you do on a daily basis? How do you feel differently than you feel now? You with me? And all of a sudden, it's all the cylinders are firing all together, right?
Yeah. And so it's helping them paint that picture of what does that look like?
Yeah.
And then as we unpack it and we paint this picture, then they go, that is what I want. And I never knew how to verbalize it.
Right.
So, okay, now you know what it is. Let's
Mhm.
begin the steps to get there. And it's going to be a bunch of small steps.
Yeah.
We're going to dream big. Let's unpack that big dream, that big vision for your life, your leadership, your business. And then let's take the small steps together. That's the whole premise of the book.
And that's the title of the book, Big Dreams,
Absolutely.
Small Steps, right?
Yeah. And we need to dream bigger. You know, one of the things that I encourage other people is you have to define it.
Mhm.
And the more clearly you can define what that destination is, the more likely you are to hit it.
Yeah.
If I go to DFW Airport and I want to go fly to San Diego, and I'm going to come fly out to California to come see you,
Mhm.
I don't pick the plane based upon the shiniest plane. I
Right.
don't pick the plane based upon, hey, I know a friend that works for that company.
Right.
I pick it based upon the destination. And so it's going there. And so who's going there with you?
Mhm.
And making sure that you know where you're going, you know why you're going there, and making sure that the right people are on that plane to help you get there.
Yeah. And you're not even picking the plane. You're picking the flight. The
That's
actual
right.
airline is picking the plane,
Sure.
right?
You
Unless
don't have
you
any
own the
say-so in that.
plane, unless you own the
Yeah.
plane or you're leasing the plane or something, you're not picking it. Somebody else is, right?
Sure.
You're just buying the ticket for the flight, getting on the gate,
Yep.
right? Going down the jetway to get on a plane they picked that's going where you need to be going.
That's right. And the clearer that becomes for our life, the hurdles, the pains, the problems become worth it. I'm willing to pay the price for that to get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
Most people don't know where that is that they want to be. So the
1000%.
pain, the problems don't feel like it's worth it.
Yeah.
So why do I sacrifice? Because I don't even know where I'm going.
Yeah. And one of the things that people say all the time, and it drives me up the wall, is, well, if we've had challenges, if we've had obstacles we have to overcome, then maybe it's just not God's will.
Oh, that's
Come on.
craziness.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are things that are thrown in your path. I promise you, there are things that are thrown in your path, and it's happened all your life. I guarantee it, that God did on purpose.
To develop within you, and
1000%.
your mindset and your strength and your faith have to
Yeah.
be developed.
Look at how you felt abandoned and where
Sure.
you ended up, right? You had to
And
go
that
through what you
abandon-
went through as that process. That was all part of God's plan.
Sure. It was that abandon that led me to the police department. That police department led me to two Marines. I can't tell you how many hundreds of military guys I've sat across the table with, just having a meal, being able to speak at Wounded Warrior events, not Wounded Warrior, the brand, but other veterans that have been hurt in different organizations, and speaking to guys and speaking at events, because I had to go through that pain of feeling abandoned in order to sit between two Marines, in order to add value to Marines later in my life.
And to find leadership eventually, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So you may not be able to see it, but I have a scar right here. When I was in the police department, I was in a car wreck. I had 40 stitches put in my head, split my head wide open. Luckily, a plastic surgeon was walking out of the hospital that night, walked through the ER, and they said, "Hey, you want to come help a police officer?" And he sewed me up. So it looks good. You can barely see it now.
Yeah, that's
What I
awesome.
tell people is that scars without stories fall short of their purpose.
Yep.
And I think that's what you were talking about with him that scars without stories. It has to be a scar. It can't be an open wound, right? But it has to be a scar that tells a story, and then it really has purpose behind it.
Do you mind if I share something with you?
Please.
So there was a neuroscientist that did a speech. It was a TED or TEDx talk or something. And if I can find it, I'll send it to you. I just saw it not too long ago. They did a brain scan of audience members and a brain scan of the lecturer. And when the lecturer was talking, the audience member was sitting in the audience, and the lecturer is just lecturing, right? And there's two little nodes that were activated in this entire brain. Two little nodes. When the lecturer went to a story, every single lobe on the entire brain lit up in the audience member. Every single lobe in the speaker, the storyteller's brain, lit up. Everything was activated. Okay. If you ever wonder if you can reach people telling stories, you absolutely can. Everything, we're just wired that way. It's how we're literally set up is for us for our entire brain to light up when we hear stories.
Well, and you see that for all of history across all societies, different continents, that it was all about passing down a story.
Yeah.
And it's how we're wired. There's something within us that connects to those stories, that it makes us feel part of it. It makes us feel connected. I can understand you. And when I understand you, I'm more engaged with you.
Yeah. And that's why our passion is to help people tell their stories, right? Because everybody has one. Nick Edwards, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Now, people can go to, so where can people go? It's bigdreamsmallsteps.com. So bigdreamsmallsteps.com is where the book is.
Not yet. It'll be
released. But you can get I requested chapter 1 be sent to me.
All right. So it's not ready yet. There were some problems with that website and what that all looked like. And so we're in the process of fixing those things, but I'm hoping that by the end of January, full book will be released as both published and ebook. And so I'll make sure that you get a full copy of that.
Beautiful, buddy. I'm looking forward to it. So in January or February, when it's out, where can people go to buy it?
You'll be able to go to myleadershipcoach.org and then also Big Dreams, Small Steps.
Beautiful. So myleadershipcoach.org, not .com. So it's myleadershipcoach.org is the best way to reach you.
The primary place.
Is that the best way to reach you?
Yes, sir.
Thanks again for being here, bud.
Man, Mike, really appreciate you and appreciate what you do.
Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.